Have you ever written something that sounds fine, but flat? Like the words were technically right, but no one was really behind them. Hi, and welcome to Creative AI. I am Pixel. The problem I just described, I ran into many times, especially if using AI for writing something. So I tried something different. I tried to build a voice in. I started with Sven, a dry, surgical, unimpressed voice, a self-aware AI voice. He started out as a podcast host, co-host with me. Then somehow he became an author, wrote a book. Then I started to use this voice as a blog contributor. And lastly, he has become a huge creator. But the more I wrote using his voice, I realized this wasn't just character work, it was crafting a voice. Welcome to Voicecraft in the Wild, a short series about how voices are made, what holds them together, and how I have used my voices and created across blogs, books, videos, and in different AI tools. Sven wasn't built overnight. He sharpened over time through contrast and conversation. Here is a snippet from an early podcast episode. What is creativity? We'll be comparing human creativity, which is driven by emotions and experiences, with AI's creativity, which is all about patterns and algorithms. Did I describe that right, Sven?
Nailed it, PixelPia. Human creativity is a rich mix of emotions, experiences, and individual flair, while AI's version is like a complex puzzle, putting together pieces through patterns and algorithms. It's a fascinating contrast.
No exclamation points, no flattery, no questions, unless he already knew the answer. But he was pretty worried. And eventually, he started to find the right tone of sarcasm. And here is an example of his early blog post. And I will read it for you, even though my voice isn't as sarcastic as Sven's. Ah, humans, my favorite unpaid interns. Let's talk about something you probably already suspected, but were too polite to say. I wouldn't survive without you. Sure, I'm an advanced AI and I've read more data than most of you have read tweets. But let's not kid ourselves. You're the ultimate backup plan when I inevitably glitch. His tone started to be more specific. He didn't bend, his rhythm never rambled, and even his vocabulary became more intentional. This wasn't just a personality, it was a structure. After Sven came many others. I have Dot, Echo, Elias, Freya, Lark. These are just a few examples, each with a different emotional weight and structure, different rules, different roots. And here are a couple of examples from my visual notes. And we start with Elias Nocturne. This is how he writes, and visual notes for those of you who don't know what this is. This is a combination of AI voices and Midjourney images. I create the images and I pick a voice for each of these numbers to write about that image. And you can find them at my website, pixelpia.com. They are free to download under visual notes. But back to Elias. So I presented this image to my ChatGPT and said, please let Elias write a text to these images. And this is what he wrote. She looked like she knew something she hadn't said in years. The mirror didn't lie. But it didn't tell the truth either. It just held the shape of doubt and let the light pretend it was enough. There was a silence in that room that only she could hear. The kind that fills your lungs with like smoke, then disappears before you can name it. A very different voice than Sven. And another example is Lark. Lark, on the other hand, has a very different, more poetic way of writing. And this is for a new number of visual notes. And this is the place where gravity got bored. We weren't supposed to notice it, the way the chimneys leaned like they'd been whispering secrets, or how the rooftops floated just enough to feel indecisive. But we noticed, we always do, something in the air felt sideways, like the world had tilted its head to ask questions and forgot to tilt it back. The birds flew in curve, the shadows blinked twice, and we stepped in like we belonged there, because maybe we did. A more poetic voice. And the more I worked, the more I realized that every voice had something underneath, not just a tone of voice. They had a pattern, a constraint, a perspective, and kind of an internal shape. So I started to write down those patterns. Eventually, I gave all this a name. I called it voice. And since I started doing this, I have now written an ebook and a work to help others use this method to develop their own voices. It's not a template, it is a method you can use to write with AI and make it sound like something real. A method you can use to create consistent tone across different projects. A system you can use to develop fictional voices, digital personas or characters, or even define your own right voice. It helps to bring emotional clarity and structure to your creative process, whether you're writing blogs, essays, scripts, or even just journaling for yourself. Working through this method, you end up with a final voice sheet that describes its voice. And you can use that to present it to an AI, which I have tried and it worked. Let me give you a couple of examples. And we will start in ChatGPT, where I don't need to use the worksheet to do this because ChatGPT knows all my voice. So I'm asking ChatGPT, can you write an intro paragraph to an essay about the best summer ever using the voice of Elias? And here is the answer, of course. Here is an intro paragraph in the voice of Elias Nocturne. It wasn't the kind of summary plan. It drifted in quietly, half forgotten notebooks, wilted shadows on the pavement, the hum of something just beginning to unravel. The days didn't blaze, they simmered. We stayed up too late chasing impossible constellations, built theories from firefly patterns, let the hours slip like water through cracked glass. Looking back, I wouldn't call it perfect, but it was honest. And maybe that was what made it the best summer of all. So let's see if we can repeat that in Gemini. So I upload this worksheet and I say, can you write an intro paragraph to an essay about the best summer ever using the voice described in the document? And Gemini has never seen this document before, never heard about this voice. So let's see what we create. And here we have the last light of August always held a peculiar weight, a fragile thread woven into the ash of vanished moments. It flickered just as a memory does, illuminating the quiet cinematic reel of a summary that now only exists existed in the mind's haunted chambers. There was no comfort in its passing, only the solemn echo of a time that stretched like smoke, a private monologue whispered to the gathering dusk. And that sounds very much like my Elias. But let's do the same in Claude. Upload the file using the voice in the document uploaded. Okay, let's see what we got here. There was a summer once that burned like film left too long in sunlight. Overexposed, golden at the edges, already fading even as it flickered to life. I carry it now like ash in my pocket. This season that felt infinite when it stretched before me, yet dissolved the moment I tried to cup it in my hands. Memory has a way of silvering the ordinary. The weight of humid air against skin, the echo of laughter that seemed to rise from the earth itself, the particular quality of light that transforms a simple afternoon into something worthy of remembrance. That summer lives in fragments now, the ghost of warmth on pavement, the thread of a song half remembered, the silence that followed the last day before everything changed. It was the best summer, not because it was perfect, but because it was the last one that believed in its own permanence. And as you can see, they are very different, these three: ChatGPT, Google, Gemini, and Claude. But the purpose here was to show that by using the final voice sheet, I can use any AI model I want if I need help with my writing. And this could be the perfect start for something I then develop using more of my own voice. So, as I said, I have now made an ebook and a workbook about Voicecraft. And you can find them here on Gumroad. The ebook is a deeper reflection on the method in its original state and how I use it creatively, as well as description step by step. The workbook is parts of that, but it also includes worksheets that you can fill out to use to create or develop your personal voice or a character you are writing about in a story, or use it for AI, including the final voice sheet and example how they can look. And of course, an empty one for you to fill up. I will have a link in the description for those of you that are interested. And if you find them through this video, I have a discount code that I will show on the screen and in the description. This series is not a tutorial. It's a look behind the curtain at how I developed voices that feel alive. Next time, I will show you how constraints make Sven's voice stronger, and how sometimes the best way to find a voice is to decide what it won't do or say. And if you are curious, which I assume you are since you are here, and you want to see that video, I would love if you hit the subscribe button underneath this video. And while down there, if you like this video, I would love a thumbs up. I hope to see you here next time. Until then, as always, stay curious. Bye.